An old cowboy walks into a dusty bar with a shotgun in one hand and a big bucket of horse manure in the other. He slaps the bucket on the counter and says, "Bartender, I'll have a cold beer." The bartender shrugs and pours him a tall glass of draft. The cowboy gulps it down, tosses the manure in the air, blasts it with the shotgun, and calmly walks out. 5 days later, the cowboy strolls back into the same bar. He's carrying his shotgun again and another bucket of manure. He leans on the bar and says, "Bartender, I'll take another beer." The bartender groans. "Hold on there, partner. We're still cleaning up from the last time you were here." "What on earth was that all about anyway?" the bartender asks. The cowboy grins and says, "Training for a career in politics." He takes a sip of his beer and adds, "Drink beer, shoot the bull, disappear for a few days, and come back to see if someone else cleaned up the mess." Old Mr. Callahan lived alone on a small farm out in rural Ohio with only his faithful old dog Buddy for company. Buddy had been by his side for nearly 15 years, keeping him company through long days and quiet evenings. One morning, the old dog passed away peacefully on the porch, and Mr. Callahan was heartbroken. Later that day, he walked into the local church and spoke to the priest. "Father," he said sadly, "my dog Buddy passed away. He was my best friend for many years. Do you think you could say a small service for him?" The priest shook his head gently. "I'm sorry, Mr. Callahan, but the church doesn't hold services for animals. However, there's a new church a few miles down the road, and not exactly sure what they believe, but they might help you." Mr. Callahan nodded and started toward the door. "All right, Father, I'll try them. Do you think a $50,000 donation would be enough for the service?" The priest's eyes widened. "Hold on just a minute," the priest said, quickly standing up. "Why didn't you tell me the dog was Catholic?" A young man walks into a small-town drugstore to buy some condoms. The pharmacist tells him they come in packs of 3, 9, or 12 and asks which one he'd like. The young man says, "Well, I've been dating this wonderful girl for a while, and tonight might finally be the night. We're having dinner with her parents, then heading out, so I'd better take the 12-pack." That evening, he sits down at the dinner table with his girlfriend and her parents. Before they start eating, he politely asks if he can say the blessing. Everyone agrees, and he begins praying, and praying, and praying. After several minutes, he's still going. His girlfriend leans over and whispers, "You never told me you were such a religious man." He whispers back, "You never told me your dad works at the pharmacy." An old lady in Arizona finished her grocery shopping and walked back to the parking lot. When she reached her car, she spotted 4 young men climbing out of it with the doors open. She dropped her grocery bags, pulled a small handgun from her purse, and shouted, "I've got a gun and I'm not afraid to use it. Get away from my car right now." The 4 men didn't argue. They jumped out and took off running across the parking lot as fast as they could. Still a little shaken, the lady loaded her groceries into the back seat and sat down behind the wheel. But when she tried to start the car, the key wouldn't go into the ignition. She tried again and again before finally noticing something strange. There was a football, a frisbee, and 2 cases of beer sitting in the passenger seat. Then it hit her. Her own car was parked a few spaces farther down the row. She quietly moved her groceries into the correct car and drove straight to the police station. When she explained what happened, the desk sergeant could barely keep a straight face. He pointed to the other end of the counter. There stood 4 nervous young men reporting that their car had just been stolen by a tiny elderly woman with glasses, white curly hair, and a very big gun. No charges were filed. Moral of the story? If you're going to have a senior moment, you might as well make it unforgettable. 16 logical reasons some men prefer dogs over wives. The later you come home, the happier your dog is to see you. Dogs never mind if you accidentally called him by the wrong name. Dogs actually like it when you leave your socks and shoes on the floor. A dog's relatives never come to stay for the weekend. Dogs think you sound very convincing when you raise your voice. You never have to wait for a dog. They're ready to go anytime, day or night. Dogs think you're hilarious after you've had a couple of drinks. Dogs are always happy to go fishing, hunting, or riding in the truck. Dogs never wake you up at 2 a.m. to ask strange what-if questions. If a dog has puppies, you can simply give them away to good homes. When you let one slip in the room, a dog just looks impressed. Dogs never complained about the TV remote or the football game. Dogs are perfectly happy to sit quietly beside you for hours. If your dog smells another dog on you, it just finds the story interesting. And if a dog ever runs off and leaves you, it doesn't take half your stuff. And if you doubt any of this, put your dog and your wife in the garage for an hour. Open the door and see which one is happy to see you. Two prawns were swimming around in the ocean. One was named Justin and the other Christian. The two friends were constantly being chased and bullied by the sharks that cruised through their part of the sea. One day, Justin sighed and said to Christian, "I'm tired of being a prawn. If I were a shark, nobody would bother me." Just then, a strange old cod appeared and said, "Your wish is granted." In the blink of an eye, Justin turned into a shark. Christian panicked and swam away as fast as he could. After all, when your best friend suddenly grows rows of sharp teeth, you don't stick around to chat. After a while, Justin discovered life as a shark wasn't much fun. Every time he swam near his old friends, they scattered in fear. Lonely and miserable, he realized his scary new look was the reason. One day, he saw the mysterious cod again and begged, "Please change me back. I miss my friends." In a flash, Justin was turned back into a prawn. Overjoyed, Justin rushed to Christian's coral home. He knocked on the door and shouted, "Christian, it's me, Justin, come out." Christian called back, "Nice try, you're a shack now. I'm not becoming Ginner." Justin shouted back, No, that was the old me. I've changed. I found cod, and now I'm a prawn again, Christian." Several years ago, Jim was sentenced to prison. During his stay, he got along well with the guards and all the other inmates. The warden believed that deep down, Jim was a decent man, so he arranged for Jim to learn a trade while serving his time. After about 3 years, Jim had become one of the best carpenters in all the county. Sometimes he was even given a weekend task to do small jobs for folks around town, and he always returned to the prison by Sunday evening. Jim was the definition of a model inmate. One day, the warden decided that he wanted to remodel his kitchen, but he didn't have the skills to build new cabinets and a large countertop. So he called Jim into his office and asked if he could take on the job. To the warden's surprise, Jim immediately refused. "But you're an expert, Jim, and I really could use your help," said the warden. "Gee, warden, I'd sure love to help you, but counterfeiting is what got me in here in the first place." By the time Mike pulled into a small town, every hotel was completely full. "Come on," he said to the last desk clerk. "You've got to have something, even a couch. I'm exhausted." The clerk hesitated. "Well, I do have a shared room with one other guest. Only problem is he snores like a chainsaw. No one's lasted the night." Mike shrugs and says, "I'll take it." Next morning, Mike strolls down to breakfast looking bright and cheerful. The clerk says, "Wait, you actually slept? No issues with the snoring?" Mike grins and says, "Nope, sorted it in about 2 minutes." "Seriously? How?" Mike leans in and says, "When I got in, he was already out cold. So I walked over, gave him a little kiss on the cheek, and whispered, 'Sweet dreams, gorgeous.' From that moment, he didn't snore at all. He sat up all night, keeping an eye on me." All the organs of the body were meeting to decide who should be in charge. I should be in charge because I run all the body systems. Without me, nothing would happen. I should be in charge because I circulate oxygen all over. Without me, you'd all waste away. I should be in charge because I process food and give all of you energy. I should be in charge because I carry the body wherever it needs to go. I should be in charge because I allow the body to see where it goes. I should be in charge because I'm responsible for waste removal. All the other body parts laughed at the rectum and insulted him. In a huff, he shut down tight. Within a few days, the brain had a terrible headache, the stomach got bloated, the legs got wobbly, the eyes got watery, and the blood became toxic. They all finally decided that the rectum should be the boss. Moral of the story, even though the others do all the hard work, the butthole is usually the one in charge. In London, at a busy bus stop, a woman who was waiting for a bus was wearing a tight leather skirt. As the bus stopped and it was her turn to get on, she became aware that her skirt was too tight to allow her leg to come up to the height of the first step of the bus. Slightly embarrassed, with a quick smile to the bus driver, she reached behind her to unzip her skirt a little, thinking that this would give her enough slack to raise her leg. Again, she tried to make the step, only to discover she still couldn't make it. So, a little more embarrassed, she again reached behind her to unzip her skirt a little more, and again, for the second time, and much to her chagrin, she could not make the step. With a smile to the driver, she again reached behind her to unzip a little more, and was again unable to make the step. About this time, a big man who was standing behind her picked her up easily by the waist and placed her gently on the step of the bus. She went ballistic and turned to the would-be Samaritan and screeched, "How dare you touch my body? I don't even know who you are." The man smiled and drawled, "Well, ma'am, normally I would agree with you, but after you unzipped my fly 3 times, I kind of figured we were friends." 2 men arrive at the pearly gates at the same time and wait to see if they'll be admitted. St. Peter greets the first man and asks, "What's your name? Where are you from? And what did you do on earth?" The man replies, "My name is Jack Turner. I was a taxi driver in New York City." St. Peter checks his big book, smiles, and hands him a beautiful silk robe and a golden staff. "Welcome to heaven," he says. Next in line is the second man. "And you?" St. Peter asks. "My name's Father Patrick Doyle. I served as a Catholic priest in Chicago." St. Peter flips through the book again and then hands him a simple cotton robe and a wooden staff. The priest looks surprised and says, "Hold on a minute. That taxi driver gets silk and gold, and I, a priest, get cotton and wood?" St. Peter shrugs and says, "Up here we reward results." Then he explains, "When you gave sermons, people mostly slept, but when Jack was driving his taxi, everyone was praying." A grocer is restocking the vegetables when a woman taps him on the shoulder and asks, "Excuse me, sir, but where do you keep the spinach?" The grocer replies, "Well, ma'am, we're out of spinach today. We'll have more tomorrow, so please come back then." She nods and walks away. A few minutes later, she returns and taps him again. "Sir, I was wondering where I could find the spinach." Confused, the grocer says, "Ma'am, we are out of spinach today. We'll have more tomorrow morning." She smiles and thanks him, then walks off again. Moments later, tap, tap, tap. "Pardon me, but do you know where the spinach is?" Now visibly irritated, the grocer says, "Let me ask you something. How do you spell dog, like in dogmatic?" She replies, D-O-G. "Good. Now, how do you spell cat, like in catatonic?" C-A-T. "Perfect," says the grocer. "Now, how do you spell freakin', as in spinach?" She pauses. F? Wait a second, there's no F in spinach. The grocer throws his hands up and shouts, "Lady, that's what I'm trying to tell you." Farmer Hank tried everything to stop speeding drivers, but his final solution was pure genius. Old Farmer Hank lived along a quiet country road for years. Life was peaceful until they built a brand new high school right across the highway. Suddenly, traffic exploded, teenagers flying down the road morning, noon, and night, and poor Hank's free-range chickens started paying the price. 3, sometimes 6 chickens a week were getting hit by speeding cars. Fed up, Hank called the local police. "Please do something about these drivers," he pleaded. So the police came out and installed a big warning sign, "School Crossing." But if anything, drivers sped up even more. So they tried another sign, "Slow Children at Play." Still no luck. Cars kept flying past like it was a racetrack. Finally, Hank called the police again and said, "Mind if I put up my own sign?" The officer shrugged and said, "Sure, at this point we'll try anything." A week later, the officer drove by to see how things were going. He slammed on the brakes and burst out laughing. Hank's new sign read, "Nudist Colony. Slow down and watch out for the chicks." A man was being interviewed for a job. "Were you in the military?" the interviewer asked. "Yes, I was a Marine," responded the applicant. Did you see any active duty? I was in Iraq for 2 years and Afghanistan for 3, and I must inform you that I have a partial disability. That's not a problem, and I thank you for your service. May I ask what happened? Well, I had a grenade go between my legs, and unfortunately, I lost both my testicles. No problem, sir. You're hired. You can start Monday at 10 a.m. 10 a.m.? When does everyone else start? I don't want any preferential treatment because of my disability. Everyone else starts at 7, but I might as well be honest with you. Nothing gets done between 7 and 10. We just sit around scratching our balls trying to decide what to do first. An old man walks into a lady doctor's office and says, "Doc, I've got a problem, but you have to promise me one thing. You cannot laugh." The doctor nods solemnly. "Sir, I am a professional. In over 20 years of practicing medicine, I have never laughed at a patient." Satisfied, the man takes a deep breath and drops his trousers. The doctor immediately is confronted with the smallest you-know-what she has ever seen in her entire career. Despite her best efforts, a chuckle escapes. Then another. Before she knows it, she's doubled over, gasping for air, laughing so hard she nearly fell off her chair. Minutes later, she finally regains control, wipes her eyes, and takes a deep breath. "I am so sorry," she says, trying to regain her professionalism. "I don't know what came over me. I promise it won't happen again. Now, what seems to be the problem?" The man looks at her, eyes full of despair, and says, "It's swollen." A retired guy named Frank was spending the afternoon at the racetrack betting on the horses. Before the 4th race, he noticed a Catholic priest walk out onto the track and gently bless one of the horses standing at the gate. To Frank's surprise, that horse, a huge long shot, ended up winning the race. Before the next race, the priest walked out again and blessed another horse. Frank hurried to the betting window and put a small bet on that horse. Sure enough, it won too. Now Frank was paying very close attention. For the next race, he watched carefully to see which horse the priest blessed. He placed a bigger bet on that one. It won again. Race after race, the priest kept blessing long-shot horses, and every single one came in first. Frank couldn't believe his luck. Convinced he had discovered a winning system, he ran to the ATM, withdrew all the money in his savings account, and came back just in time for the final race of the day. Just like before, the priest walked out onto the track. This time, he stopped beside an old, tired-looking horse with terrible odds. The priest carefully blessed its forehead. Then he blessed its eyes, then its ears, then its hooves. Frank grinned from ear to ear. This is the one, he thought. He rushed to the window and bet every dollar he had on that horse. The race started, and the old horse finished dead last. Frank stood there in shock. After the race, he marched down towards the track and found the priest. "Father," Frank said, "all day long you blessed horses and they won, but the last one lost by a mile. I just lost every dollar I had." The priest looked at him kindly and shook his head. "My son," he said, "that's the trouble with you Protestants. You can't tell the difference between a simple blessing and last rites." Mildred, a retired wealthy widow from Florida, decided to go on a photo safari in Africa and brought her little poodle Daisy along for company. One afternoon, Daisy started chasing butterflies and wandered farther and farther away until she realized she was completely lost. As she was sniffing around, trying to find her way back, she noticed a hungry-looking leopard creeping towards her through the grass. Daisy thought, "Oh boy, this doesn't look good." Then she spotted some old bones lying on the ground nearby. Quickly, she sat down with her back to the leopard and began chewing on the bones as if she didn't notice anything. Just as the leopard prepared to pounce, Daisy loudly said, "Whoa, that was the tastiest leopard I've ever eaten. I wonder if there are any more around here." The leopard froze mid-jump. His eyes went wide with fear, and he slowly backed away into the bushes. Up in a tree nearby, a monkey had watched the whole thing happen. The monkey thought this was valuable information he could use to his advantage, so he hurried off to tell the leopard what had really happened. Daisy noticed the monkey racing away and immediately suspected something was wrong. Before long, the monkey caught up with the leopard and told him the whole story, making a deal to stay under the leopard's protection. The leopard was furious that he had been tricked. He growled and said, "Hop on my back. You can watch while I go back and eat that pudding." Meanwhile, Daisy saw the leopard returning with the monkey riding on his back. She quickly realized the monkey must have told him everything. Instead of running, she calmly sat down again with her back to them and pretended she hadn't noticed anything. When they were close enough to hear, she shouted loudly, "Where in the world is that monkey? I sent him an hour ago to bring me another leopard." Out behind a quiet little country town, there was an old pecan tree growing just inside the cemetery fence. One autumn afternoon, two boys filled a bucket with pecans and sat under the tree, hidden from view, dividing them up. "One for you, one for me, one for you, one for me," said one boy. A few pecans slipped out of the bucket and rolled down towards the fence. Just then, another boy came riding past the cemetery on his bike. As he slowed down near the gate, he heard voices coming from inside. He listened carefully and heard, "One for you, one for me, one for you, one for me." The boy's eyes grew wide and he paddled away as fast as he could. A little further down the road, he saw old Mr. Jenkins walking slowly with his tail. The boy skidded to a stop and said, "Mister, you've got to come quick." "You won't believe it," the boy said breathlessly. "The Lord and the devil are down in the cemetery dividing up the souls." Mr. Jenkins frowned and said, "Now, son, don't be telling tall tales." But the boy insisted so much that the old man finally shuffled along with him to see. They stood quietly by the fence and listened. Sure enough, they heard, "One for you, one for me, one for you, one for me." Mr. Jenkins whispered, "Well, you might be telling the truth." They gripped the iron fence and tried to peek through the bushes. Both of them were shaking a little as they strained to see, but they still couldn't see a thing. Then the voice said, "One for you, one for me. That's the last one. Now, let's go grab those nuts by the fence and we'll be finished." I finally have everything I dreamed about as a teenager. It just took 60 years to get here. I don't have to go to school or go to work anymore. I get a monthly allowance called Social Security. I have my own place. Nobody tells me what time to be home. I've got a driver's license and my own car. The folks I hang around with aren't worried about getting pregnant, and thankfully my acne cleared up years ago. Life is good. I even changed my car horn to sound like a gunshot. People move out of the way a whole lot faster now. Remember when girls used to cook like their mothers? Now they drink like their fathers. I didn't make it to the gym today. That makes about 5 years in a row. I stopped calling the bathroom the John and started calling it the gym. Now I can say I spent half the morning in the gym and feel pretty proud about it. When I was a kid, I thought nap time was punishment. Now it feels like a little vacation. The biggest lie I tell myself is I don't need to write that down. I'll remember it. I don't have gray hair. I just have wisdom highlights. If God wanted me to touch my toes, he would have put them on my knees. Last year, I joined a support group for procrastinators. We still haven't had our first meeting. Why do I have to press 1 for English when they're just going to transfer me to someone I can't understand anyway? Of course I talk to myself. Sometimes I need expert advice. At my age, getting lucky means walking into a room and remembering what I went in there for. Little Gus is pulling his old beat-up red wagon down the sidewalk. A local preacher is walking along the same path, just a few feet behind him. As they're walking, one of the 4 wheels on the wagon falls off. Gus stomps his feet and yells, "What the hell, damn it!" The preacher sees this as a perfect teaching moment. He says, "Gus, as we go through life, things happen. Sometimes things are good and sometimes things are bad. But the good news is that the good Lord is with us at all times. And for that reason, we should say praise the Lord when good or bad things happen. Do you understand?" "Yeah, I guess so," replies Gus as he picks up the wheel and tosses it into his wagon. It's awkward pulling it with only 2 wheels, but at least he can keep going. Not long after, another wheel falls off. "What the hell, damn it!" yells Gus. Gus, I think the words you're looking for are praise the Lord, says the preacher, for he is with you and looks after you during your times of distress. Gus shrugs, picks up the wheel, and tosses it into his wagon. It's awkward pulling it with only two wheels, but at least he can keep going. Not long after, a third wheel falls off. What the hell, damn it, pouts Gus. I think what you mean to say is praise the Lord, says the preacher. Things may seem tough, but the good Lord is watching over you. These trials and tribulations will come and go, but you will survive. I know, I was just shocked again. I'll try harder next time. He bends down, picks up the wheel, and throws it into his wagon with the others. Now he's pulling it with only one wheel, using both hands and struggling. Just as Gus is so tired he can hardly continue, the last wheel falls off the wagon. He stops and looks at his poor wagon, which is clearly beyond pulling now. Gus takes a deep breath and with much enthusiasm and sincerity says, "Praise the Lord." Suddenly, the wagon floats up into the air. One by one, the wheels reconnect themselves securely in place. The wagon gently floats back to the ground, fully repaired. The preacher's jaw drops in awe and says, "What the hell? Damn it!" A very beautiful blonde woman is involved in a serious accident on a winding country road. Her car, traveling on the wrong side of the road, collides head-on with a man's car. Miraculously, both crawl out of their wrecked vehicles completely unharmed. They take in the scene, looking at their destroyed cars, then at each other. The woman smiles. "Just look at our cars," she says. "They're completely wrecked, and yet we don't have a scratch. If you ask me, it's a sign. We were supposed to meet like this." The man, flattered and sensing a romantic opportunity, nods eagerly. "Yes, I strongly agree. Definitely a sign we were destined to meet." A moment of silence passes. Then she casually undoes the top two buttons of her blouse, pushes out her ample chest, bats her eyelashes, and says, "And here's another sign. My car is ruined, but this bottle of scotch in the back seat is completely untouched. I think it's God's way of telling us to celebrate this moment, this unique chance of still being alive." "I couldn't agree more," the man replies, hardly believing his luck in how the situation is progressing. She hands him the bottle. "Go on, have a big swig. To us." Wanting to impress her, he takes 3 generous gulps before offering it back. She takes the bottle, screws the cap back on, and hands it to him. He looks puzzled. "Aren't you going to toast us?" She smiles sweetly. "No, thank you. I'll just wait here for the police." Two hunting buddies in Arkansas are taking a stroll through the woods when they come across an old, broken-down well. Curious, they peer down into it. However, it's so deep and dark they can't see the bottom. Wanting to know how deep it is, one of them tosses a small pebble down. They wait and wait, but hear nothing. Next, they scour the ground and find a decent-sized rock. They haul it to the edge and toss that in. They wait again, still nothing. Looking around some more, they spot an old engine block lying nearby. Struggling together, they push the heavy thing to the edge and tip it in. They wait. Down it flies. Suddenly, splash! A loud crash echoes from below. Just as they're about to leave, a goat comes racing past them at full speed and dives straight down into the well. The hunters stare at each other in shock, not quite believing what they just saw. A couple of minutes later, a farmer strolls by looking puzzled. "Excuse me, fellas," the farmer asks. "You wouldn't happen to have seen a goat around here, would you? My old Billy seems to have gone missing." One of the hunters replies, "Sir, your goat's crazy. It just ran by us and jumped right into that well." The farmer shakes his head and says, "Nah, that's impossible. I tied Billy to an old engine block." A very woke man who works completely remotely from home for a large company is invited to a compulsory in-person event, a costume party. He's highly embarrassed about what he sees as his major flaws, a completely bald head and a wooden leg, and doesn't know what to wear. He wants something that will disguise both. He writes a long email to a high-end costume company, explaining his insecurities and asking for help. A few days later, a parcel arrives with a note. "Dear Sir, We read your letter with interest and empathy. Enclosed, please find a pirate outfit. The spotted handkerchief will cover your bald head, and people will assume your wooden leg is part of the costume. Shiver me timbers, you'll look exactly like a pirate. Instead of being pleased with the effort, the man is outraged. He feels the outfit highlights both his bald head and his wooden leg. He fires off an angry complaint to the manager. A week later, another parcel arrives. Dear sir, we are sorry if our previous suggestion offended you. After careful thought, we are enclosing a monk's habit. The long robe will completely cover your wooden leg, and with your bald head, you will truly look the part. Now he's even more offended, believing they're drawing attention to his baldness. He sends a furious letter calling the staff idiots and threatening to post negative reviews everywhere. A few days later, a very small parcel arrives with a final note. Dear sir, please find enclosed an excellent red grenadine syrup. We suggest you pour it over your bald head, let it harden, stick your wooden leg up your butt, and go to your party as a candy apple. The management.